Truth Bombers Podcast.
Truth Bombers Podcast.
The group chat turned podcast with your hosts, Russ, Lockie, and BJ.
Welcome back. Episode 4, Truth Bombers Podcast,
That's
the
fast.
group chat gone podcast. What you just heard was Russ's intro for the first time going live at the start of an episode.
Our
So
hype man extraordinaire.
keen to hear some feedback on that. Stiff or Spud might be making Russ's hype
Got my
man.
own segment coming up here. You come and get me.
Russ, how are you, mate?
I'm good.
Good.
Very good.
Good, Lucky?
Yeah, very well.
Good to go?
I'm ahead of you guys, so I'm pre-cracked.
Ready to crack it.
All right, let's get into it. Episode 4. Today we are talking all things
Still unsponsored, if anyone's down there.
still unbelievably so unsponsored. Today we're talking all things the AFL ladder, and of course we're going to just be talking about the premiership season. Maybe if we have time, we can go into how we think if the ladder plays out the way that it plays out, how the finals might play out from there. That might be a little bit of fun. But we're going to go through, we're going to give you we're going to discuss our top 4, our bottom 4, and everything in between.
Effectively the opposite of let's play it week by week.
Yeah.
Opposite of
Season
what
to
players
season.
would be spitting out after every game.
Yeah. And we're going to come through and try to come to an even negotiation in terms of what that 18 looks like, so that we have an official Truth Bombers podcast ladder at the end to compare by at the end of the
Let's
season.
do it.
Sound good?
Where we start?
I think we'll start at the top. Now, I got a couple of rules before we get into it, boys. I love the heated discussion that takes place on this panel, and I encourage it. But in order to not make this a 10-hour episode, we're going to work with a 2-to-1 vote down for a position. So if 2 people think that a specific club will finish in a specific spot, that majority will win that
Or if there's
spot.
3 different.
That discussion ensues until you win.
Oh,
at
so
least
no
one person
discussion
over.
if everyone agrees.
Well, if everyone agrees, what's the discussion? We all agree.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep,
Yep.
great.
Makes sense to you? All right. Shut the studio door. The ghost of season past trying to come back in. We're obviously joined again by Andrew Phillips, Jaden Laverde, and Jake Stringer. And these are becoming a little staple. So maybe we'll look into this. Could be our first official piece of merch. Maybe we'll do them a little better than stapling the printout copy on a $2 stubby holder. All right. Who wants to start first? Let's talk minor premiers, boys. Who have we got?
I think you blokes are different to me. So I put Western Bulldogs.
Doggies?
Yeah, I've got Melbourne.
I got the D's. D's for me. Too hard to beat. I think last year, especially in that grand final, they showed, and we talk a lot about glimpses on this show, they showed a glimpse of what they're truly capable of in the grand final that geared and leveled them up above anything they did all season long. To me, the only thing that I can see getting in the way of consecutive Melbourne victories is stupidly dropping a game in a prelim like Richmond did against the Pies, and that cost them the dynasty. I think they're going to be at the top of the ladder for the foreseeable future.
So you see them as a dynasty team?
I do.
Team?
I just think that their midfield and their list, they peaked a few years ago. They made a run early, probably too early, as I guess time told, but they've got a lot of guys now that are hitting their straps that aren't 26 and 27, they're 23 and 24, which probably suggests that their best football is still a little bit further in front of them. And I think they're going to be there for a while.
No, one of the 3 teams have done in the last 25 years, gone back to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they were ruthless throughout the finals past season. I think them and the Dogs are the top 2 in my mind. I've got Doggies as my second team finishing on the ladder. I just think Melbourne, too many players that are absolutely at the top of their game, looking through their midline, looking at their back line. I think they've got a number of role players that'll do what they have to do. Yeah, can't agree more. Melbourne number 1.
Melbourne number 1.
2-1.
Melbourne number 1. All right, we've locked our first one in. That was good. Nice and quick.
So Dogs second.
I've got Doggies as my second.
I've got Port as my second. I think
Interesting.
they have been a team that has been right there on the cusp. I think they've fallen short just and unluckily the last 2 seasons. I think this year for them is make it or break it and rebuild.
Hinkley's in his 10th year this year. He's come close, hasn't quite got it. He had a list that was a premiership list about 6 years ago. They were all young in their prime and couldn't do anything with them. He's got them back up, done a mini rebuild, got up there, just fallen short, like you said, the last couple of years. They had that 1 year that they were dominating the whole season and it came to finals and they fell away. This is his last chance. If he doesn't get up there and get through into the grand final, I reckon he's gone.
For me, grand final is your pass or fail mark for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, 100%.
But my feeling is that they'll pass. So I got them as my number 2.
Played Melbourne, so we've got doggies.
You've got doggies.
I'll agree with the doggies.
Yeah.
Finish number 2, make grand final again. Do we see a repeat grand final this year?
I don't think so. I think what happens in finals just is so off script that even if you're the top 2 teams, I don't think it happens that often. That
last year
maybe they meet in a semi or a prelim instead.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, last year was the first year things actually went to script pretty much. Like, you look at the last sort of 5 years prior to that, you know, the guys that were on number 1 during no one that was that Adelaide that dominated and then lost to Richmond, and then Richmond would dominate and they lost to Collingwood. You know, that things haven't gone to script. Port Adelaide dominated that 2 years ago and then it couldn't get through.
Dogs are an interesting one. I wasn't convinced that Melbourne were the best team all season until the finals, and even the first half of that final. I didn't think they were going to win that game. Going into the game, I thought they would, and then at halftime, they had a big job in their hands, and credit to them, they blew them away in the end. But
I think Western Bulldogs have their forwards come back this year. That's why I put them up. I think they can kick more goals. I think they can match them in the midfield. I think they can kick more goals than Melbourne. So that's why my decision to put them as number 1.
I had them as number 3, so I think we're all pretty aligned in that they'll be up there this season. Yeah. They'll be one of those contenders. They were much more impressive for me during the season than not. So cool. All right. So D's 1, Dogs 2. Who have you guys got for number 3?
I've got Port Adelaide. So a team that you're just speaking about potentially making the grand final this season. I think they've finished in the top 4 the last couple of years and haven't been able to make a grand final. As you said, it's a bit make or break. I think that they need to take that next step and be challenging actually on the big day, or you might see them fall a bit off the face of the cliff.
Yeah, look, I had Port go down a little bit from last year. I think I was a bit on the fence with Port, to be honest. I think because it is a make or break year, what's that going to do for them as a group and as a coaching group? I went for a little bit of left field. I reckon Sydney could be top 4, so I put Sydney as third. There's a bit of a shake up. There's always a few teams that sort of come out of nowhere, and the fact that they made finals last year with such a young list, had 5 NAB Rising Star nominees, ended up having the winner, I think, as well. If I might be mistaken there. The way that, you know, Tom Harley recruits up there, they're always regenerating like their list. They should be not making finals. I think they've missed the finals maybe twice in the last 20 years or something.
They're a bit like Geelong in that sense.
Yeah.
Every single year they're just up the top.
They recruit well.
Very, very few poor years.
The only thing I saw negative last year for them was the fact that they got Alia. They drafted, like, I couldn't understand why they got rid of Alia. We all know he ended up being All-Australian last year for Port.
I think Alia had the season.
He showed glimpses of that for a while now. But they got rid of him for almost nothing. But anyway, I had him as third I
got the Swans as 4th.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll go Port for 3rd then.
Port for 3rd?
Because you blokes had them pretty similar.
Lockie, where have you got the Swans?
I've got the Swans in that 5th to 8th bracket.
Okay.
I could easily see them, after having such a good year with such a young list last season, falling a little bit off the pace before they then push towards the top 4. So personally, I would have them in 7th to 8th.
I think, speaking of Ken Hinkley and what he's managed to do with Port over 10 years, and arguably the same with Geelong and Scott at the helm, I think Longmire was part of that conversation.
Oh, 100%.
Been there a very long time now. So Swans in 4.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yep. Happy?
Not happy, but
2-1.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
All right. So my big call from I believe it was episode 2 of Season Predictor was the Mighty Bombers finishing in 5th. So I've stayed true to
So
that.
it's going to be a hard one, I guess, where we place the Bombers. I had them finishing the same as last year in 8th.
I don't have them 5th. 5th, if we're not going, if we're going with Sydney as in 4th, I would have 5th as Lions. I think they've been a team similar to Port Adelaide, pushed up towards that top 4 spot for a couple of years. I think this is a season that is probably for them, again, a make or break. Like, can they actually push towards the grand final, or have they put all their eggs in one basket and now they'll drop away a little bit?
I'd Brizzy at 7th. I think they're dropping off this year.
I got Brisbane in 7th as well.
Yeah,
I
in 7th.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I think Brisbane have gone as close as they're going to go. I don't see necessarily, not that I really am all over the trades or the changes that they've made.
They haven't made any changes. So they had a problem with their salary cap and they just couldn't get anyone in. They didn't have enough money to.
I think that spells more doom and gloom than.
And Lockie Neal was talking about leaving. He only confirmed that he wasn't leaving, like halfway through the tree.
Well, Cam Rayner's coming back. He's apparently looking pretty fit, wanting to play more midfield minutes. Is it Eric Hipwood as well? That was ACL, so he's going to miss most of Hipplewood. Eric Hipwood. So he's out for most of the next year as well. And
is he? So just Danaher's number 1 target.
So you got Danaher's number 1 target. Now Danaher kicked a goal every year last year.
Every
week,
game except for in the finals.
Yeah, and so
congratulations, you're underwhelming in Brisbane as well as Essendon.
You had Dan McStay as another forward, Eric Hipwood, who obviously would be out injured. Cam Rayner missed the back end of last year, or a lot of last year. He'll come back into it. Cameron, obviously a very quality small forward. I think they've got the firepower too, but I can understand where you could see them dropping down a little bit.
Right.
So who did you have as 5th, sorry?
I had the Lions as 5th.
And you had
I had the Lions as 7th. So we put the Lions in 7. So we're still talking and
5th,
discussing.
I had Cats. I had GWS at 4 and the Cats at 5.
All right. So I did a little bit of research on both those teams. So GWS against us last year, played them in round 8. They beat us by 2 points, which was our 3rd loss by round 8 of less than 1 goal. We kicked 5 of the first 6 goals in that last quarter, and then Hopper pulled that one snap over his shoulder, just out of his ass. And then we won the centre clearance ball going forward, spilled the mark. Hooker could have been paid a free kick, wasn't paid.
There was a lot of swear words at that moment when the free kick wasn't paid.
There was some cracks appearing in the screen, that's for sure, in the group chat. Yeah. Just as a little recount, Merritt had 37 that day, Parrish had 35 that day. But going forward against GWS, when we play them, Toby Green's kicking 2, Finlayson's kicking 3 most of the times that we go out. We played them again in round 19, which for me was a game that at that point we really needed to win. We kicked 7 goals, 11, which ultimately cost us the game, lost by 13. Lockie Whitfield had a fucking day out with 35. Merritt had 20 and Parrish was tagged out of the game with 15. So they shut us down pretty well. I think they're a decent outfit. I don't think they're as good. I don't think they're good enough to push up the ladder. I've got them finishing just making the finals.
I had them at 4 GWS because what they did to make finals last year was extraordinary when they were decimated at one point with injuries. I think now that their injuries are coming back, they've got a pretty class coach up in there. I think I saw them pushing forward a bit this year.
This is going to be tough. So in that 5th and 6th spot that we've got left, I can't see Geelong not being one of those 2 spots.
I have Cats in 5th for mine.
And I have Essendon in 6th.
I've got Geelong in 6th. So we're all there and there.
So I have Cats 5.
If you both got Cats in 5, Cats in 5.
I agree with that.
Are we saying the Bombers in 6? Are we taking that 6th spot and finally getting a home final?
That's my opinion.
I have them at 8, but if you guys are there.
You had them at 5th, 6th, 8th.
Yeah.
I'm at 6th.
And then GWS in 8th for me, making finals, but just.
Well, I've got them at 4, so
that's your next highest spot.
Yeah.
So this is tough. So I've got Freo in my 8.
You got Freo and 8.
I do have Freo in my 8. I think they're a team that is young, have enough key position players to push up higher. I could see them missing. So I could
Who's kicking their goals this year, though?
Matt Taberner. Then you've got who's their forward?
McCarthy still there?
Kick a few.
Yeah, you've got the guy from GWS wanted to be traded out this season. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
You give me your passport, you cheap bastard.
I've got Freo finishing 9th, and I've got Freo finishing 9th. I think they'll win equal games again. I think they're going to be one of those teams that's like, you have to win all your games, and a game needs to go your way to make it through. I could see them finishing in 8th narrowly.
I guess if you two have GWS both in your 8, we sort of got to go with that. I'd put them in my top 10.
And then are we talking then Freo for 9?
This is where it gets tough.
Freo 10.
Yeah, I've got Freo sort of thereabouts. So if you guys are happy with them in 9th.
For 9th, I had Saints. I think they just missed. They star in a few, and then they just don't turn up to a few more, and they miss out.
I have the Saints falling off a cliff. I have them in my bottom 4.
I have the Saints not quite off the cliff, but down.
Should we do something now, because it's going to be a bit messy with these in between ones? We go straight bottom.
Yeah, okay. Let's reverse
4.
it. So we say we've got our top 8, and we're saying Freo at 9.
Yeah,
agree with that.
Yep.
And so we got bottom 4.
Just a recap for the listeners. We're saying the top 8 for this season is going to be the D's as minor premierships, minor premiers. Sorry, the Dogs in 2, Port in 3, Sydney in 4, Geelong in 5, Essendon in 6, Brisbane in 7, GWS in 8, and Freo in 9. Now, if that comes to fruition, then that means that we're playing GWS at home. That's a team that beat us twice last year. How do we feel about it?
No, we'll be playing Brisbane at home. 6/7.
Oh, 6/7.
I'd be very happy.
We carved them up last time they played the MCT.
Well, they carved us up last time we played them together.
In the rain, and
Best case scenario.
Injury decimated then.
Best case scenario. Queensland COVID outbreak. The Suns and the Lions are forced to hub up away from home for a long period of time, get a bit tired, play the final. Okay, so
Wooden Spooners.
I got North for me as my Wooden Spooners. I think they showed some fight. I think they're going to be better than they were last year. I think last year, off the top of my head, they won 4 games and they drew 1. I could see them winning 5 or 6 games this year. I think six plus games for them would be a good season, but they're still a game and a half behind that 17th place, which I think was the Pies.
Oh,
yeah. So I've got the Pies still down there, but for me, North still sits in 18.
4th on Wooden Spooners.
That
is a big call.
I
don't think they're list. I did.
Right, keep going.
No. I reckon change of coach, you're always going to have different game plan. How long is the game plan going to sink in before they actually start winning some games or start using the new game plan? I don't see their list being up to scratch with a lot of the other upcoming teams. I don't think, they tried to offload a few of their senior players no one even put in a phone call for them. Like no one.
You love that expression. I reckon that's the 6th time.
Were you on the phone?
No one was calling to check up on them. Like no offers were made. You got
Tom Mitchell, no call, no one's on the phone.
You got a Brownlow medalist, no one put a phone call in for. Like when was the last time a Brownlow medalist that went up for trade and no one was interested in him? But even took Adam Cooney.
Like I think
because he had a Brownlow.
I can't see Sam Mitchell coming in, taking over a Clarkson blueprint. I think they've got a pretty decently talented list that's coming up. They definitely made me nervous when we played them towards the end of last season. For mine, they're not. I think they're just outside that crew of teams vying for 8 spots.
I think there's a lot of these teams here that are going to be on the similar level, and there's not going to be like last year. Everyone knew North Melbourne from round 1 we're going to be like Wooden Spooners. I don't think there's a team this year that there is like, you're Wooden Spooners this year. Like Adelaide the year before, we knew we were going to be Wooden Spooners because of everything that happened. I don't think this year there is that standout wooden spoon. So for me, I find
But it's going to be the Hawks.
my bottom four was North, Gold Coast, Pies, and Hawks. I think they're all on the same level.
Gold Coast, Pies.
I think North is just going to spend another year having that game plan, putting their young kids in, get a few wins. They'll have a few more, like you said, than last year. I don't think Gold Coast are going to do any good.
One at a time. 18th spot, Hawks.
Okay, Hawks.
I've got Adelaide. So Adelaide are wooden spooners for me. I look at their list, especially with Tex Walker that won't be starting the season. I can't see them kicking enough goals. I can't see them winning the midfield battle. To me, that they are clear wooden spooners. I think they are the team that is well below everyone else.
I've got the Crows at 17th, so just above North. So I could probably be convinced to make that switch. Where's your North?
I've got North in that 13th, 14th spot.
So you think they're going to have a pretty big year?
I've got them pushing up the ladder.
All
So
right.
I had Adelaide pushing up the ladder a bit more.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a negotiation. I'll agree for Adelaide to come down into 18th. If Russ agrees for North to finish down a little lower in 17th.
I'll take North at 17.
So
Yeah.
that-
I'll give you North at 17.
We'll have to keep the original individual predictions as well. So when North end up making the 8, Lockie can come back and say,
Look, I think they're pushing up the ladder.
all right, 16th position, I've got the Collingwood Football Club. Again, just as a little bit of history. I was getting sweaty yesterday watching highlights from that Anzac Day game. I remember you and I think, had grilled.
Oh, yeah.
And we were coming back a little bit late, so we turned off all the phones, turned off all the radios, come in, watch a game. And 5 minutes, we were 3 goals down, and Russ and I were just furiously fucking eating chips, cracking it, trying not to show too much emotion. Tipper kicks 5. Darcy wins the Anzac Day medal with 42 touches, 9 clearance, 9 score involvements, 2 goals. That was your moment of the year. Merritt had 34 and 5 clearances. My boy Flip gave Grundy a touch up in the ruck. For Collingwood, Pendles had 30 and 5, side bottom 30, crisp 30. Like I said, they kicked the first 3, and I think we went into that game winning at quarter time. So for me, that was part of that. Oh, fuck, 3 quick goals, heads drop, it's game over.
Yep.
And a really good way for us to make that comeback was very positive. We played them again in round 23, much more comfortable, beat them by 38. Cutler had his best day with 24, Merritt 27, Peter Wright kicked 4 goals straight. And for them, Taylor Adams had 23. My boy Geordie had, Taylor Adams had 31. My boy Geordie had 23. Sidebottom 22. No Pendlebury, no Collingwood. For me, I think he's on his last legs. They're putting him towards that half bank, trying to play that general role, structure, call out kind of role.
I've worked with Heps.
Have you?
Worked with
He
Heps.
worked with Heps. Yeah, I think Hep will, putting him there to protect him, knowing he's got more years left. I think this is Pendle's last goal.
Yeah.
For me, they finished 16.
I'd agree with 16.
I'll give you 16. I had him at 17. So
Yeah, I think the Pies still side bottom coming up towards the end of his career. Pendle's coming up towards the end of his career. Looking at their young talent last season, there wasn't a player that I thought stood out and wowed me.
new coach, new
coach.
structure.
I think they are a team that will be down the bottom for a couple of seasons before they hopefully never, but eventually push back up.
All right. Bottom, so 15th. So last of the bottom 4.
As I said, I've got Saints in my bottom 4, so I'd put them in 15th, but it depends where you guys have them.
I'm out of picks.
I got the Suns.
Oh, I had Gold Coast. Yeah, let's put it down there. Gold Coast, I reckon their first 4 games of the season, they've got West Coast away, they've got Melbourne at home, GWS away, and then Carlton away. Like, that's a pretty tough
A rough
start for a club where Stewie Dew's last year of the contract, he's won 19 games out of 83. He is on the chopping block from day one. That's the start you have.
He's also on the chopping block because Buckley and Clarkson both have their year off next year and then start looking to get back in the game for mine as well.
Yeah, I think he's under like immense pressure. Like if you look at their seasons, normally they're a team that maybe in the first 5 games they've won 3 or 4. And you're like,
West Coast
they've turned a corner. And if you've got a tough start to the year and they start poorly, you can't see them performing well for the middle stages. I think they are a team that are in trouble.
One thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about Adelaide, that was the game that we were all watching together, getting Perkins' rising star. I think we were right. He's kicked 2. If he kicks 3, he gets the rising nom, and I think he did that game.
He did, yeah. He had a standout game.
All right, so we've got our 1 to 9, we've got our 15 to 18. So we have 10 through 14 remaining, and the teams that we're talking about here, Richmond, Carlton, the Eagles, Hawthorn, like St Kilda. Now these are teams that, like Richmond, I struggled. I got to my 8 and then I was like, fuck, I haven't even thought about the Tigers yet.
Shouldn't be.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced they're completely done. I think they might be one of those teams that, if they can make finals, they might shake things up, but that's a very big
if Dusty is playing.
Yeah.
Is Dusty going to come back to, after an injury, we've spoken about this before, can he come back from the kind of injury he had?
He's back to, I'm pretty sure he's back to full training. And they're saying
full training is different to being the Dusty we know that can win games by himself.
For sure, but he's also that guy that has that knack and ability to just turn it on.
Yeah, but if he's not there, do they come close?
I think they struggle without him, but I think if he's in there, he's always got that potential to...
They don't even have a captain yet.
It'll be Cochin.
He stepped down.
Has he?
Yeah.
Officially?
Okay. They haven't named a captain yet.
Well, I hate Cochin anyway because he stole Watson's Brownlow. Anyway.
He did steal.
That's 10. A big call. That is a definite call.
4, 10, 11, and 12. I would say Richmond, West Coast, Carlton. Not necessarily in that order, but they're my 3 teams that will be close to the 8. Like you think of West Coast, they're always going to win a number of games at home. Richmond, I can't see dropping down towards that bottom 6. I think they'll be close to making the finals. There's always hype around Carlton, whether it's
all bullshit.
Yeah, well, it's whether it's valid or not. I think they are a team that are improving. So I think
this is where I was with Carlton. I had them just out, just out, 2 spots out from the 8, because you look at their list. And you're like, how do you not win games? You look at the list that they've got and you just think you should be winning every game you play against. They've recruited well. They've got good draft. They've got amazing draft picks, but it's still Carlton. You got a new coach in, and it's a coach that was the 3rd or 4th choice for that job. And it's a guy that's also been now back from coaching jobs these like 4 or 5 times and never got one. So he's coming in and he's going to be in charge of Carlton now. It just has disaster for me, but they have a good enough list to get close-ish.
So I think the last 2 seasons has shown that they have a lot of talent on their list, and that's what provides hype. Like people look at certain players, certain games that these players have and think, they should be a top 8 side. But the last 2 years, they haven't had a coach to develop a game plan that's going to match it with the top teams.
Yeah.
So if you look at, I guess, what Teague provided the team and Bolton before him, they're not one big names in the coaching circles. They didn't really develop a game style that matched it with the best. It was either too defensive or too attacking, no balance. I think Voss, with his 2nd round of coaching, so the 2nd time into that gig, I think he can definitely be a coach that provides that. It's just depending on, is it this season or is it in 2 or 3?
Yeah, I don't think he gets it right this year, for sure.
I think you want to talk about the impact the Trucks had on culture. If you're Michael Voss, that's where you're starting, because that list is a team of superstars, but they're not a superstar team. Yeah. And that's culture. That is guys like Saad going out there and wanting to play their own game and their own role and wanting to get their stats up and their touches up.
Because he didn't like the way
he didn't want to play as part of a system. He wanted to play his own game. And I think that there's a lot of guys on that list that do that. And I think that you've already put an enormous amount of pressure on Michael Voss to come in and say, make finals or it's bust.
They've been pretty open about that. It's finals or bust for them.
Yeah, so I think it'll be fucking hilarious when we do the review and they've missed finals again, and let's see if they stick to their word and if they're looking for more coaches than the coaches that had hot dinners during the season.
Like, can't wait to see Sardi in tears again.
But if they're stuck because they can talk all they want about making finals or bust, but like Who's putting their hand up for that Carlton job? I don't think Clarkson's coming back to go to Carlton. I think if he's coming back, he'll go Tassie or he'll go Gold Coast. That's what I think with Clarkson.
He was a third or fourth choice for the job.
Yeah. But they also put all their eggs in a basket that they were never going to.
Yeah, and then they went up to the next best person, and he also said no.
Who was that?
The old Freo coach, what's his name?
Oh, Ross Lyon.
Ross Lyon. They went after a few people after that as well.
That surprised me, that call, because Ross Lyon's strategy is boring, like defensive flooding football. And I don't think that the players that they've recruited, and this is the hard thing too, when you churn through coaches, you recruit for a certain coach's game plan and strategy, and then you get these players in and you oust the coach, a new coach comes in and wants to play a different game plan, right?
So who are we going to 11
so we got Carlton
Moving on from Carlton, because we're just pot-shotted on for about
Carlton
20 minutes.
Carlton episode.
I know a few boys and you know what, fuck Carlton, because everyone this week that sent me that, I'm sure you boys saw it, that Rafael Nadal's won 21 championships since we won a final. They're all Carlton supporters, so we should have a Carlton episode just to hear and rag on them. Okay, so Freo in 9, Carlton in 10. For me, then it's Richmond in 11.
I'm happy with that. I'd have Richmond or West Coast.
I'm a bit lower, but yeah, you can go with that.
I think that's a big call.
Who's left then?
So we've got the Saints, the Eagles, and the Hawks vying for 12, 13, 14.
I think Eagles, I know you said they're going to get a couple of home games, but, you know, with Jack Darling not playing because he's an anti-vaxxer,
I think that messes with their structure a lot. He's worth 40, 45 goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think they've just aged out. I think they've showed last year that they're past that bracket where they're going to be making finals. Yeah, I don't know. Like, who's the guy that's on 1.3 million? McGovern.
Tim Kelly.
McGovern's on he's not a
huge contract.
Huge contract, so they can't get some of those mid-level sort of performers in there. And he's not even playing half of the season.
I think they have a lot of stars, and then they have a lot of players that are fringe players that, if you look at the best sides, they always have role players that aren't big names, but they play a good role. I don't think West Coast has that sort of system, or the players that come in don't maybe know how clear their game plan is.
They have that hold-up play like Collingwood do, and like they let the whole play up, and then their stars do what they have to do, like kick the goals. And, you know, is Kennedy, you know, is he past his prime as well? Like, I think those stars they do have, they're starting to go out of their bracket.
We talked about power forwards and who would you bring in to superstar us up to contention. Kennedy, for me, is one of those guys. If we could get him for a year to come in and be that big body, big target, kick, 50, 60.
Is he still going to kick 50, 60 this year, though?
I would say he's on his last season.
Yeah, I think so too, but I would take him for his last season.
I would say he could kick 30 to 40 goals quite comfortably because he's such a good set shot.
I don't think he'll play a full year, though.
He knows how to find the footy, but I don't think he's got the speed. I think the game sort of passed him a little bit.
It'd be interesting to see, number one, they obviously had a fair amount of off-field distraction with all the Rioli stuff that was going on. Yeah. It will be interesting to a lot of talk about their game plan
as well, won't they?
Well, we can't get into West
they're going to be in a hub. Yeah, exactly. They're going to be in a hub because
as will Freo, but we've just said we think Freo are going to be knocking on the door.
I didn't even think about that when I was talking. I'd Freo quite sort of mid-tier as well, but I wasn't even thinking about that either. That they're going to be in a hub for the full season because I don't see WA opening up the borders.
I will be interested to see if this is the time that the Eagles make that change to their game plan, where they actually do start playing much more of that pressure football.
If you look at Simpson, there was a lot of times last season when they got blown out of the water that he did say, we need to make changes. We need to find a different style. And it's so hard during a season, I guess, to make those changes with players that are very established. Like, how do you change your game style with established players in the middle of the season? It's just something that's hard to do. I would say if we're talking about this 14th spot, I'd be happy with Hawks down the bottom there. I know we've been talking about West Coast.
Oh, Hawks are in there. Oh, they have to be there. For me, I had them.
I know you had them right down the bottom.
Then we'll go West Coast, if that's all right.
West Coast in 13, which puts the Saints in 12. That's high for you. Where'd you have the Saints?
Saints, I had them in 10.
I had them in 9, 10, 11.
No, I had them 9. the Saints.
So you want Saints in 12, Eagles in 13, or the other way
I
around?
would like that, yes.
Eagles higher than Saints?
I'm happy with Saints ahead. I think they will have a poor year, but having spoken about West Coast as we have over the last couple of minutes, I can definitely see them, dropping right down.
All right. She's penned in.
All right, official.
Top 8, Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, Sydney, Geelong, Essendon, Brisbane, GWS. In 9th, we have Fremantle, Carlton, Richmond in 11th, St Kilda in 12th, West Coast in 13th, the Hawks in 14th, Gold Coast in 15th, the Pies in 16th, North in 17th, and the Crows in 18th. We happy with that?
I'll give it a pass. I'll give it a tick of approval.
I don't know about Adelaide being last. That's my only qualm.
Where did you have Adelaide again, Russ? Tell us.
I had them going up. That's why I'm struggling to my head around them having been the Spooners, because I had them progressing a little bit more this year. Not much more, but a couple of
I'd put it to you this way. Name someone in their back line that's a star.
I couldn't even name anyone in their forward line or midfield.
So, name someone in their forward line who's a star. Apart from Tex Walker, who's not going to play at the start of the year. Potentially he's not coming back or he plays later in the season.
Name 3 Adelaide players.
So they've got a solid midfield, right?
Yeah,
They've got
Rory
Rory
Sloane.
Sloane. They've got one of the it's not Kelly, it's Crouch brothers.
Yeah.
They've got the guy they got cheap, who's played in the midfield. They don't have half a dozen players that you could look at and be like, these are potentially all Australians. They've got Rory Laird. Sorry, I forgot about him. He is potentially.
You just mentioned him in midfield.
Okay, Rory Laird, one of the Crouch brothers, Sloane, and then I couldn't name a player that I would want pushing into my side. I can't name a player. So I see them dropping down
The bottom.
To the very bottom, yeah, absolutely.
I see the structures there more than the individual players, and I don't see the structure in things like Collingwood, in Hawthorn, in GWS. I don't see those structures there, even though they've got the big name players that you could put out. So that's where my mindset comes in, that I don't see something like the Hawthorns dropping off and then Adelaide going forward.
So with structure, though, I've always thought like you need half a dozen or more stars to hold up the structure. Because like no matter what your game style, if you don't have players that can sort of break lines or kick miracle goals or anything, like it doesn't matter. Like they can play as good a style of football as you want, but if they can't pull off the actual disposals, etc., like you can't.
I got some. Look, I've been having a look. They got Lockie Scholes, a player.
He's not an All-Australian. I'm pushing towards it.
Okay.
All right,
Elliot Himmelberg.
who's in Hawthorn that's going to be All-Australian next year?
Okay,
They
so
got
I could say
Frampton.
someone like Jarman Impey off the half back line.
Riley
You've
Philpott.
got
as All-Australian.
Yep. You've got someone like
That's
Mitchell. You've got someone
Mitchell's
like
Jara.
Jager Amira. You've got Luke Bruce. You've got, I think, some young
there's
talent.
some names.
I don't
Young
think
talent.
Luke Bruce is
Luke Bruce will
All-Australian.
never be All-Australian.
He has been an All-Australian, and he kicked.
See, you're talking about
30
the past,
plus.
you're talking about
He
2021.
kicked 30 plus
22,
goals
yeah.
last year.
That's not Australian though.
No, but as a small forward, who's a small forward? There's only a couple of those that get picked.
Sicily.
Yeah.
Sicily's coming back.
Is he going to
CJ?
be playing the first half of the season though?
CJ, Will Day. I think they've got young talent.
Sicily, I think, yeah, but you're talking about young talent versus what you're saying all Australian. I don't see anyone in that. in that
But
club.
I would say they've got young talent. And if you ask me who the Crows players are with young talent, I'd be like,
Riley Philpott.
no one. Like, he's kicked 5 goals in one game and that's it.
Come.
Just don't go to Adelaide anytime soon. Isn't there such an anti-Adelaide?
No, I see them absolutely bottom out.
My favourite Adelaide memory is Essendon beating Adelaide round 1. I think it was 2018.
I remember vividly.
2018 or
Just-
17?
No, I think it was a year after they made grand final.
Yeah, it
They
would
were
have
the
been
hottest
17.
team in the AFL going around, other than the fact they lost the final.
Russ and I were at the G. I think it was the week before I left to go to Canada.
No, you
And
just
we-
got back
we
from
won.
Canada.
We won. No.
No.
And Russ was like, we just beat the fucking
We're on.
second we got on.
We are on.
We were not on.
Are we going to go over this bottom part?
Yeah.
What's the bottom part?
Do you want to read out team by team and then we'll go over?
Yeah, so I think I kind of maybe jumped ahead there and kind of read mine out a little
I
bit
didn't realize you were doing full stats for every game.
as we went through. But I was just going through.
I did a general overview of how
He was in
was going.
Yeah,
It was in the
perfect.
moment.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So we've got our 18. Now let's go through team by team and we'll chat a little bit about how our boys went against them last year and maybe, as we said, who played well for us, who tore us apart, and who do we need to shut down, or whatever other research you've done there, Russ.
I did club research. You guys are pulling out fucking statistics.
All right, so
Leaders
we just
game.
split them into three. So you had the D's, Russ, I believe.
I honestly last year did not think the D's were that dominant when it came to playing us. I mean, we watched the game at the
At the Prince,
The
Friends of
Prince.
the Prince,
so a few ciders had, but
a few cheese boards.
we were a few cheese boards, unfortunately. They didn't blow us away. Like, the fact that they did shut it down, their defense, we all know, is pretty elite. So they did shut down our movement forward. But, we were in the game the whole game. Like, it was, we lost by 20 points.
13, I think.
Well, less than
11
It was
maybe.
within
Less than two goals.
Yeah. And we were in it the whole time. And, even going down those last 5 minutes, you still felt like we were in the game and we had a chance to pull it off. We're talking about a team that you think is going to be a dynasty for the next 3 years. And everyone sort of got them as number one, like a shoe-in for this year. The fact that we got so close and we didn't get blown away, we took it to them, I thought was pretty impressive.
It's frustrating to take it to a team that ends up winning a premiership, but getting blown out of the water by clubs that aren't, in my opinion.
Well, you know what?
Brisbane,
Last year we only got
Geelong.
blown out 3 times. Port Adelaide, when they played us early in the season, we were still
round two.
we were still pretty green. We hadn't got our structure together yet. We've got a new coach came in. It took us that 5 games, and we said we were 2 and 6 at one stage, or 1 and 6.
I think the only game we'd won last year was the Saints game. We'd smashed the Saints by 75. Thank God, because we needed the percentage from the beat. We'd just taken the lead after, right? So,
And then the Cats, which I reckon for me was, I called going into that game that we just don't have the defense. I've been pretty sheepish on the defense for a while now. We didn't have the defense to lock down that forward line, and they showed it. Like, they just tore our back line apart.
we kicked the first, there's a bit of stats here against Geelong, round 16. They beat us by 41.
Yeah.
We kicked the first 4 in a row of that game.
I was
and
at that game.
I
Down in
was-
Geelong.
up and
You went
about.
down to Geelong.
I was down there. I'm a Geelong boy, and it was so good that first quarter. They didn't kick a goal. Sitting with Geelong fan, it's just like 99% Geelong supporters. And we're on fire. There was a chase down tackle on Dangerfield on the wing.
Dev Smith, that was Dev Smith's big tackle.
Holding the ball. Stringer kicked a couple of miracle goals.
3.
The team
Yes,
we
like, we
looked
went
like
right
in the
up early.
first quarter was a team that you'd be like, this is a top 4 side. There's no doubt that this side is not in that sort of bracket. And then
And then they got inside their own 50 because as soon as they went inside 50, it was a goal.
Cats kick 8 in a row in the second quarter until Jeremy Cameron does his hamstring. And I think, that'll slow him down. And then Hawkins kicks 6 for the game.
Yeah. We had no reply to stop Cameron, and we had 0
to stop. Well, our reply to stop Cameron was his hamstring, and we had no reply to stop Hawkins coming in and kicking 6. Dangerfield, 37 touches and a goal.
Parrish admittedly won the medal on that
43
day.
touches.
Had a great game. In the third quarter, we actually showed signs of fighting back. Couldn't quite convert. We kicked a number of points in a row, and then from that point, it was game over.
That was the one game last year that showed us that we were out. Like, we were not in that game. We were outplayed. We were outmatched as a team. It was just, we had no chance of winning.
That was one of those games that got away from us, and we never looked like we were getting.
But I got away, but we had no answer to it. There was no,
That's what I mean.
Yeah, there was no game plan.
There's no
that
stemming
you
the flow.
Yeah, you couldn't change your game plan up and go, hey, we were no match for them. Like, we could not match that back line of that forward line. We couldn't match our back line of that forward line.
Yeah.
Okay. If we look at maybe the bracket we talked about, like top 4, that sort of 5 to 8, the next sort of bracket down, and then bottom 4. Against the top 4, we're only competitive against
We beat
Melbourne.
the Dogs once.
And the Dogs, we beat them during the season, 97 to 84. and then we lost the first final. Okay. In the 97 to 84 season game, realistically, Peter Wright kicking 7 goals straight was the difference.
Yeah.
So they had chances, but at the end of the day, we're a little bit more clinical. When we did play them in the final, McRae had 36, Libba had 35, Waitman 4 goals, potentially 3 from free kicks.
They came to work and we were out on our feet.
We're out on our feet, and it looked like a game between boys and men. But going to the Port Adelaide game, we got absolutely pummeled in the first quarter. It was game over at quarter time. We were down by over 6 goals. We ended up losing that 119 to 65. Sort of a theme I feel is the midfielders of theirs getting a hold of us. So Ollie Wines had 38.
Round medalist.
In terms of forward line, Charlie Dixon kicked 4 goals too in the first half, and Georgiades ended up with 4 goals.
Do you think we would have lost that game at mid-season or end of the season?
Yeah.
I think we would have lost, but I think it would have been a completely different game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So the early
I don't think we
season
would have been blown out.
the early season games when we played Port, we played Brisbane and got pumped away. I think that was us finding our feet. We weren't quite
100%.
into a rhythm yet.
Look. Okay, we went 1-1 against the Bulldogs, and arguably we could have beaten Sydney both games. I think we lost both by less than a kick on one, and maybe
we had some
20
pretty shitty calls in both those matches too.
Yeah, well, anti-Essen instead of the umpires. But if top 4 sides, we're basically looking at 2 and 6 at best. Like, we have to do better than that.
Absolutely,
we have to do better than that. And then if we look at that bottom 4 bracket, it's been a while since I can remember beating Brisbane. GWS, like I said before, scuffed us by 2 points and 20 points. And Geelong, like, when was the last time we beat the Cats?
Maybe 2018. I'm pretty sure I went to the game we beat them.
Yeah. So
it has been a number of years.
That's work for sure. For us. That next 4. So this 4 is an interesting 4 because we're even that 6. Typically for us, where we've been the last few years, is there's 4 rounds to go. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are all on basically roughly the same amount of games. You start looking ahead at who's playing who. You start playing ladder predictor, and it definitely starts to come down to percentage. So I think when I look at Freo, when I look at Richmond, when I look at the Saints, even Carlton, like, I want to believe that we are better than those teams in finishing higher, and that's what I've shown in my ladder. But for me, any of those 3 or 4 teams could be the team that takes that 8th spot.
Yeah, I think when we played Saints, we had a day out and they had a really off day. We ended up pumping them by over 70 points. Freo, we got home in a close one. That was one of the few games, the one and only under 2-goal game that we won. Thanks probably to Parrish, 39 disposals and a goal. If you look at the Richmond game, we got ahead in the final quarter, and then it was just an avalanche. Carlton was sort of similar. We were ahead earlier in the game. We were up by 3 goals at one stage. They ended up sort of getting a run on, and we just couldn't stop it at the very end. We kicked a couple of goals, and it looked like it was interesting, but we probably weren't close enough.
That Tigers game in particular hurt. They've beaten us the last 11 times we've played them now, and that's a game again. Parrish takes home the medal. He had 44 and 11 clearances. Hooker and Ham both kicked 3 goals each, and that was the game McGrath did his knee.
But you remember, like, if that game was, it was almost like it was 10 minutes too long. We got blown out of the water. They fought back. They finally got ahead, but it was like 10 minutes left of the game, and it's like once because we were like,
I guess that's
40 points down or something.
I think we're 36 points down. We got to 3 points up. And then they kicked the next 7 goals to win by 39.
Yeah, because
and they did it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess, what we're saying is we can't allow ourselves to be in a position where we've got to kick 7 in a row just to get back into a game. Like, as we mature as a group, the plan needs to be, if we don't have momentum and we don't have the ball, how do we take the sting out of the game? How do we slow it up, slow it down, stop the game, create that kind of stoppage, messy, gross football that takes that like run and energy and momentum out from other sides? Because that's ultimately, like, once the Tigs kick 2 or 3, Shai Bolton kicks that clutch snap, And that is just floodgates, you know?
I think it comes down to our midfield. As good as they were last year, I'm pretty sure we're 13th in clearances for the season. So when it came to matching the top sides, 13th is just not going to be good enough.
Yeah, I think that changed back end of the year though. If you just count, like I said, like with Stringer, he was the number 1 rated player in the AFL for the last 9 games of the season, or last 10 games of the season. And that's when we got our clearances up again. And then we became a clearance machine.
It improved a lot, but no matter how much improved, if we finished 13th out of the sides, we can't have been that elite.
You also had Darcy Parish really getting tagged towards the end of the season as well, which, like, if he's getting 15 touches in a game, which he did against that second GWS, when you're relying on him or getting used to him having 40 and 10, you're getting well beaten in the midfield there.
I think if we look at the bottom sort of 5 or 6 sides, at least we're a little bit more confident. So we played Adelaide, flogged them. We played North Melbourne, got over the line 1 game and convincingly beat them in another. Collingwood, we beat them both times we played them. Gold Coast, we beat them. Hawthorn was 1-1. It was very frustrating to lose that round 1 game. And West Coast, the only time we played them was in Perth. And we had a great win. So
well,
look at those
the Saints, we beat them by 75 points in that round 3 or 4. So what we're saying even last year, we've comfortably beat everybody from 12th to 18th. And like, you should be beating comfortably if we're the team we think we are, teams that are finishing in that 12th to 18th position.
So if we just look at the top 4 that we've put down, we just need to improve our conversion against those top sides. We need to be a team that can match it with those top sides and is at least a 50-50 against the top sides, because if we look at that, what are we, 1-6 the last season?
Yeah, because we lost both games to Sydney. For me, this is the danger. 9 through 11. It's that Carlton side that we can kick 108 points and still lose a game. It's Richmond have now got 11 on the trot. They just love tearing us apart, and they play Richmond brand of football better than we play Richmond brand of football. And Freo are a team that they make me nervous. I'm not quite sure if we play them there or here, but when we play them there, they're a decent team at home. The team for me in the top 4 that for us is, for whatever reason, the big one that we need to capitalize on is the Swans. For whatever reason, we are their bogey team. Like, they struggle to get away from us. Granted, they've got Buddy Franklin in their team, who's kicked more goals against Essendon. He just, for whatever reason, has a lazy 6 or 7 in the bag every time we play him. But to lose both of those games by only 3 goals, if we can pick up 2 there and start to get some confidence, maybe you only lose to Port by a couple of kicks, match it with the D's again. We've beat the Bulldogs last season in a season game. If all of a sudden we're looking at 5 out of 8 against that top 4, that's confidence, that's momentum, that's belief, magic.
That's the difference, really, I guess, with getting into the 8, just falling in and actually pushing up towards the top 4. I know we've sort of put us as 6, but I guess the 6th position is normally like, okay, they're close to that 4th spot, really.
If we finish 6th or 5th, I would like us to be, we were knocking on the door for 4th. Sydney had to do something special in the last game to take the spot. I don't want to be I don't want to be that, we've made finals and it's like teams kaput from having to win 6 in a row, have other matches go our way, make it in to get absolutely, because we finished 8th, Geelong finished 5th, we're playing at GMHBA.
Not a final. That's been the biggest talking point for 20 years. They won't play a final at GMHBA stadium
unless it's an interstate side.
There you go. Well,
all right, I'll put this to you, boys. First 5 games of the season. How do we go? Round 1, Geelong away. So in Geelong.
We're 0-1, I feel.
Brisbane.
In Brisbane.
At home. Melbourne, MCG. Adelaide at home.
So we play our first 3 games against last year's top 3 sides. Yep. Good draw. Thank you, AFL.
Then we go after Melbourne. We then have Adelaide at home, Freo at home, and Collingwood MCG.
All right, well, that'll be Anzac Day. Hopefully win at least those last three and at least one of those first three.
It's going to be tough starting off a successful season. We were picking to go 6 to start 0-3.
Yeah, but
I think we have to win one of these opening 3
Absolutely.
games.
No, we should be aiming to win one of those. Like if we're going to finish and contend in
Not aiming,
finals,
we have to.
we need to win
come close
beat a
to
team
6.
against us. I would like to say that we'll be 4-2 after 6.
Yeah, I think 3-3 is acceptable. I think 4-2 is where you should be if you're trying to make the finals and finish comfortably in that position.
Yeah, I reckon Geelong gets us for sure, especially in Geelong. I think we've got a chance with Brisbane, absolutely.
Good stress test on the defense to see if it's as good and as elite as we think it is. They're coming up against Hawkins, Cameron,
and then I'm intrigued to see what happens with Melbourne. Like we said before, we were in it. You know, have they got to that next level and we haven't sort of kept going up in our trajectory as well?
Who have the D's got in the first couple of weeks?
I did not look that one up. They have Bombers round 3.
Oh, whatever. There'll be.
So I mean,
we'll get to that in the next episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll be a little bit deep. Maybe that's the next episode. We can deep dive a little bit into the actual pan out of this. Oh, well, unless there's floating rounds, but
no, I don't think there is.
all right, we'll go through that. So, just one last thing to finish off. If this is the final 8, then we see first final being Melbourne Sydney in Melbourne. Assume Melbourne wins that.
Comfortably.
Yeah. The second final is Bulldogs Port Adelaide again in Melbourne.
I think that'd be a cracker, to be honest. But you'd have to
In Melbourne,
Bulldogs.
yeah. Bulldogs.
Yeah. So if my maths is correct, then that would have the winner of Essendon and Brisbane playing the loser of Port and Sydney, of Western Bulldogs and Sydney.
Western Bulldogs play Port in that instance.
Sorry, Melbourne and Sydney. Is that right?
We'd play
1 plays 4, 2 plays 3, and then the loser it usually crosses over, right?
Yeah,
This
that's
is
right.
this is riveting
Doing math on this
podcast,
line.
podcast material. 5v8, which is an elimination. 6v7 is an elimination. So the winner goes straight through. Winner goes
Get
straight
the roller
through. I think I want to say the loser of 1 and 4 should predominantly get an easier game, which presumably would be the loser of 5th and 8th.
Well, the loser of
loser
6
6
and
and
8
7.
is out.
Sorry, the winner of so 6 and 7 would be
go all the
lower.
way down.
Yeah. So if we're finishing in 6th and we're beating Brisbane, I think we're then playing the loser of Melbourne Sydney, which if is Sydney, I don't mind that as like a little
Sydney
bit of a
at home?
Bombers prelim. Yeah. Well, it would be in Sydney, I think.
No, if you lose, you play late, don't you?
But they're the higher team. They get a home final for
Yeah.
all things that we can do some research and come back.
Something to mull over.
All right. Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Benny.
We'll chat soon.
Keep my piss back.
Go Bombers.
Go Bombs.